Megan, do you want to go over our meeting ground rules?
I can. So please note, as this is a public meeting, this meeting is being recorded and will be posted to the City of Beaverton's website. Minutes are still being taken as well. Please make sure you are muted unless you are the active speaker. Attendees are automatically muted. For any quick comments, you can hold your spacebar to unmute and release the spacebar to become muted again. Please be aware of items in your video background which could be offensive or distracting to others. You can select the virtual background in the drop-down list next to your video icon. For our attendees, you can type your question in the question and answer chat. All questions will be addressed during the public comment time on the schedule. If you would prefer, you can also click the raise hand button to ask your question directly, and we will make sure to come around to you as soon as we are able to. For attendees who are joining by phone, you can raise your hand by typing *9. If we have multiple people waiting to speak, the order of who will be speaking will be put in the chat box. You are welcome to have open discussion in the chat function at the bottom of your screen, but please be aware the chat becomes public record. I will be monitoring the chat, so feel free to let me know if you have any technical difficulties, and I will troubleshoot with you.
Great, thank you so much. Let's call our December meeting of the Bicycle Advisory Committee to order. And why don't we first go about and just do a brief introduction of everybody. Why don't we start with Amanda?
Amanda Koppel here. I'm the vice chair for the BAC, and I'm also our meeting minutes recorder for this evening. Normally I live out by Nike, but tonight I am coming to you live from Florida on Eastern Standard Time.
We'll try to keep the meeting in its time that it should be, given that you are 3 hours ahead of us. Michael Hashizumi.
Hi, all. Michael Hashizume. I've been on the BAC since, I think, 2018, 2017. I live in the Denny Woodford neighborhood, right next to sort of more downtown Beaverton. And yeah, excited for the meeting tonight.
John?
Hi, I'm John Vogler, and I live in Beaverton in the southwest area of Beaverton. And I've been on the Bicycle Advisory Committee for 2 years.
Terrific. And Annie?
Hi, I'm Annie, and I have been on the committee since the beginning of this year, and I live in the Triple Creek, Five Oaks area.
Wonderful. Amy?
Hi, I'm Amy. I am a senior at Westview High School, and I am the liaison from the Mayor's Youth Advisory Board. I live in the Five Oaks, Triple Creek area as well.
Great. Ananda?
Hi, my name is Ananda Vardhana, and I'm an Intel retiree, and I've been with the BAC for past 1 year. I'm near Walker Road, Friendway, Beaverton. Thank you.
Wonderful. And let's see, Michael Dunleavy?
I'm Michael Dunleavy. I've been with the committee since the beginning of 2019, and I live in the Bose neighborhood. I'm having some technical difficulties, so I apologize for that in advance. I'm not sure what's happening.
All right, no worries. Nathaniel?
My name is Nathaniel May. I have been with the committee since January this year, and I live in South Beaverton.
Perfect. Councilor Hasan?
Hey y'all, it's Nadia, or Councilor Hasan. I live in Five Oaks, Triple Creek, right off Walker, near a couple of you, it seems like, and I'm excited to be here. It's the last meeting of the year.
Yes. Jean?
Hi everyone, Jean Seneschal Biggs. I am your staff liaison. I'm the transportation planning manager for Beaverton in the community development department.
Great, and I'm Mike. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying good to see you all.
Oh, okay. And I'm Mike Mulligan. I'm the chair of the Bicycle Advisory Committee. I also live in the southwest portion of Beaverton, kind of just off of Murray. So welcome everybody. Quick review of our agenda here in December is we're going to do approval both of our October and our November meeting minutes since we did not have a quorum the last time. Then we'll have a chance for public comment. Councilor Hasan will have her update from City Council. We'll do a quick review of our presentation that we had this Tuesday to the City Council of their annual report. Then Erin Wardell will be joining us for some presentations on both the MISTIP 23 to 28 planning, and then also an update on the Council Creek Regional Trail. Jean will be able to give us an update on some other Beaverton related city events. We'll have time for comments from our committee members, and then we will be adjourning for the year. So why don't we bring up the minutes that we have from both October and November. I guess we can look through October's first and get approval of those, and then we'll move on to last month. And as we scroll through, if there's anything that we need to correct, if you've had a chance to look at these, please bring that up.
I'm remembering that last month when we didn't approve these, we talked about correcting these hyperlinks that are supposed to be here that
Okay.
actually aren't. So we will get those in before we post them.
Okay.
I will promise to
Yes.
do that. I meant to do it
Sorry.
last. I'm realizing we kind of
I
just moved
forgot
on.
to do that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we forgot. It's okay. It happens. Just a couple places.
Any other corrections, additions that members feel need to be made to our October minutes? If not, let's have, if somebody wants to make a motion to approve our minutes.
Motion to approve.
John's making a motion. Do we have somebody to second it? Nanda seconds that. So for all in favor of approving the minutes from October, raise either your real or your virtual hand. Say aye. Any opposed? All right. October is passed.
Mike,
Yes.
I couldn't see everybody's videos because half of my screen is the meeting minutes. Did
Okay.
we have any opposed?
No, I don't believe we did.
Any abstentions?
Are there any abstentions? I don't believe so. Okay. Now, November. I want to thank Caitlin for doing these. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to be here this evening, but
So, Mike, I had
Yeah.
a comment.
sure.
So there's a place called as YI Bike, and somebody wanted to have a better name, and had sent a logo to Jean on that. So,
Yeah, thank you, Ananda. I'm sorry I did not reply to you
Yeah.
with that. I think hold that thought for when
Okay.
we bring that topic back,
okay, cool.
because we will bring it back. Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
yeah, for sure.
For those of us who are here, any changes, additions, corrections that we see need to be made?
Mike, I think the only thing I will note is that we need to just not show Israel and Kara
Okay,
as
yeah, so
absent
just,
there.
we will strike them from the
Yep.
list of.
Yeah.
Make that correction. All right, with that, then if somebody like to make a motion to approve the November minutes.
Move to approve November's minutes.
All right, somebody like to second that?
Second,
All right, and so I remember, let's see, I think Nathaniel, you weren't here. Right, and Corey and Michael and Ananda. So the rest of us like to move to approve it, raise your hand. Say aye. Okay, so everybody that was here approves. Were there any abstentions? We have abstentions, any nays? All right, we are good with November.
I can't see video.
Okay, sorry.
Who's doing what?
So John, myself, Michael, Hashizumi, and you all approved, and we were the ones that were here at the meeting. And so abstentions would be Nathaniel, Michael Dunleavy, and Ananda, who were not.
Okay, I've got three abstentions down.
Okay. Perfect. Well, that brings us to the public comment. Is there anybody out there, Megan, that is listening in that might want to be making comments?
We do have an attendee. There's nothing in the chat
Okay.
yet, but I will let you know if they have questions.
Okay, and we'll circle back around to that. So, all right, we're for Councilor Hasan, if you're ready with your update on City Council and everything that's going on, that would be great.
Well, hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. If you didn't get a chance to tune in Tuesday night, Mike did just an excellent job representing the group and presenting on your updates. I was telling him earlier, it was a model for, I think, how we should be getting updates from our boards and commissions. So super excited to hear that. Nothing really hot that I can think of, except that this Saturday council is meeting to set council priorities. And as you know, we've been in this new form of government. And one of the things that's held us back from really starting to make decisions about things is setting priorities as a council. So priorities could be something around housing, it could be something around transportation, it could be something around bicycling. Bicycling might be a little narrow, but right, like just big buckets of areas that we want to do work in. Once we've identified council priorities this Saturday, which, you know, a year into office is a little late, but better late than never. It will help the city manager define the kind of work that she'll be able to do. So what work are we going to get after? What focuses the staff should be doing, and how we'll really focus on 2022. Wow, I'm just jumping ahead. And one sort of just point of information, because it is starting to be shared more publicly, you know, with COVID and loss of revenue, we did see, we're seeing a bit of a kind of, you know, we're in a place of not necessarily budget crisis, but more budget constraint. And so do we have the funds to do the things that we want to do? And maybe we can't have the things that we want to do. And so I go into priorities super excited because I'm like, yay, we can finally start setting priorities. And then I also hesitate a little because I know that we're kind of we're going to be in a tight year. There's not a ton of money. ARPA money that came was really identified more for relief and recovery, and not necessarily just like gaping holes. And so next year is probably going to be a tight year, and we're going to have to say no to things that we don't maybe want to say no to, or have to figure out how to say yes to things that we may not want to say yes to. I will say that there were some things in Mike's presentation that I thought were really nice and important. And if you felt that you wanted council to hear about something that you were really passionate about, you know, letting us know by email by tomorrow to help us be prepared for Saturday. If you felt like there was something in your presentation. It was like the Vision Zero. I think that you're like, Councilor, you should get behind that. You know, you should definitely share that with us. All of our email addresses are published publicly online. And so Saturday will be the moment where we're able to say, you know, here's the work that we're going to go after this next year, and it'll help staff get after that as well. So I do realize that I'm telling you this the day before, but if you have the appetite or desire to reach out to council, you can just do citymail@beavertonoregon.gov. You can also look us up. It's usually just first initial of first name and then last name @beavertonoregon.gov, and share anything that you feel like you really want us to get behind. So I'll pause to see if you all have any questions. Such a quiet group.
Well, certainly if questions pop up, we can bring those back to you as we're going along here, as long as you're able to attend. And certainly thanks for that invite to send in some emails and things that we think are priorities. That's something I think many of us should kind of look at trying to do before tomorrow. Great. Well, should we move on to the City Council, our annual report debrief? And I don't know exactly what we want to, I can kind of give some of my thoughts on just sort of some of the feedback that we got. And Jean, certainly if you want to share, I'm not sure how many people had a chance to watch that on Tuesday night, but as Councilor Hasan said, I think it was well received. And I first off want to thank everybody on the committee for your input over the past several months as we kind of narrowed down the focus of where we wanted to target our message, how we wanted to couch that message. And certainly many thanks to Councilor Hasan for your advice on how that should be presented and kind of what the format should be, and Jean for all of your input, as well as we kind of looked at those individual components that should be a part of it and getting a lot of the information that went into it. And Amanda as well, just for your time and looking at that and providing feedback. I think it was really very much of a team effort, and the positive comments that we're getting really reflect on the entire committee and everything that you did. So for me, thank you.
Great.
Some,
Oh, keep
go ahead,
going.
Jean.
No, keep going. You were going to say more.
Okay,
Before
I was just
I've
going to
got my
say, just
notes.
kind of looking at some of the comments that we had from council members after the presentation, I think there was definite kind of centering around the climate action plan and seeing buy-in to the BAC having a seat at the table in that conversation and looking to build that collaborative relationship between both us and the climate action task force that the mayor is helping to the logistics of connecting Jean with her counterpart that's doing that, and looking at how they're developing their strategy going forward and how we mesh with that. So I think that was a really strong point that came out of it. Also, I think Councilor Fagan, he saw the value of the going after the gold recognition from the League of American Bicyclists and seeing the value of doing the bike count, as well as mentioning Vision Zero. So I think there's support certainly for a lot of what we're doing. And they all thanked all of you for your involvement and what you're doing for the city.
Yeah,
Jean, do you have anything that you wanted to
yeah,
add?
I'm just sitting here. I've got my notes that I scribbled during the presentation and that conversation afterwards. Yeah, I think the Climate Action Task Force and connecting with them, which I will tell you that it looks like it's going to happen in February. So I've been that we will meet together with them. So I've been in touch with their staff liaison, Kevin Boylan, who works in our community services and engagement department. And he's their liaison. So we think that probably at the February meeting, and I think it may be on our date, because I think their regular date may land on the holiday, that we might meet for the first hour of our meetings, and then we'll go off into separate Zoom rooms and do other meeting stuff. So I think come January, I'm going to pull together a meeting with Mike and Amanda to meet with their leaders, although I'm not sure if they have chairs yet, but they'll find a couple folks there. I would say if any of you have a real strong interest in having a conversation with folks from the Climate Action Task Force and being a part of sort of agenda setting of that meeting, let me know and I'll loop you in so we can make that we can have you included in that meeting. So things are already in the works there, which is exciting. And I think it's great to connect you all as a resource with that group, just because we know bicycles can do a lot for climate action. So we want to make that happen. And I think you captured, Mike, I think what Councilor Fagan brought up. He was the liaison the last time we did the League of American Bicyclists application. So he recalled that, he remembered that, and he knows the work that goes into it. I have heard Councilor Fagan speak up about safety in the past at other council work sessions on other transportation related topics. So I wasn't surprised to hear him pick up on that. I know safety is kind of a focus for him. What else? And then for those of you that remember reviewing the Western Avenue projects here in this room at some point in the past, I can't really recall when, but that project's under construction, and Councilor Tivnon mentioned that in her remarks. I know she's just super jazzed about seeing that that project move forward, which when it's done, we'll have a cycle track on Western Avenue, which is over in that industrial area just east of 217 between Beaverton Hillsdale Highway and Allen Boulevard. So that's going to be a pretty incredible improvement for us there in terms of a connection for bicyclists through the network. So those were what I heard. And we would be remiss to say Councilor Hasan had very warm, loving remarks. She said she was a proud parent with that presentation and was just impressed with both all of you as a committee and the presentation that Mike delivered. So I heard other kudos for Mike's delivery of the presentation overall. So we did well. So kudos to all of you. Yeah, I know Ananda was there in the background watching. He was in the universe where you're an attendee, so you don't get to see everybody like this, but I know he was there. I don't know who else, was anyone else there, or have others watched it yet? And if you haven't, you can go back and watch the recording. It's still there. Yeah. Oh yeah, Amanda was there, of course.
Yeah.
I would just add one thing that I said there, and I want you all to hear. As council, we're trying to take on big bodies of work. So like transportation, like it's so big. And I genuinely feel that when I think of the things I worry about at transportation that are so big, I know that I feel really thankful that you're all sitting in and weighing in on decisions around transportation, because it allows us to be more big picture focused. And so it really does mean so much when the county or the city or metro comes and presents to you all and you share your experience and expertise, because I think everyone on council is passionate about safety, pedestrians, bicycling, but we can only take on so much. I can only, go after so many projects that we're working on. And so your lens of looking at it from a bicyclist lens, a pedestrian lens, and a safety lens, like it makes me feel like we are in good hands when we think about like the work that's happening. So like kudos to Jean, but also to all of you for doing that. It really does. It means a lot to me. And I think it means a lot to the rest of council.
Wonderful. And I think one of the other things that was mentioned is with the Cooper Mountain project, that was another one that's mentioned, is that they're going to be looking to us because cycling is a component. They certainly want to be a part of that development. And there are some definite challenges to topography when the word mountain is in the name of the development. So that's going to be something I think will be being called upon, and that's going to be good to be a part of as well. Perfect. Well, again, thank you, everybody, and look forward to seeing those seeds that we planted and being able to move forward with the direction we're being given from council.
Great. Thank you again, Mike. I know you put a lot of work into it, so I appreciate it.
Happy to do
Yeah.
it. I'm happy it all came together so well. So
Yeah, great. Okay, I am seeing that our guests are not here yet. I'm going to
So-
jump ahead. I'm going to suggest I jump ahead and do the liaison updates.
yes.
Does that sound good? And I'm sure they will arrive any moment. Our guest presenters. Great. So in terms of the updates that the city has for boards and commissions and NACs, and I sent this to you all in an email. But if you have not yet seen the winter lights, but Beaverton winter lights are here December 4th through January 6th at special locations throughout the city. And the light displays are open nightly from 4 p.m. to 8 a.m. And locations include Candy Cane Lane and the Grove at City Park, so downtown and around near City Hall. And if you go to the city's website, beavertonoregon.gov/winterlights, you can find out more about all those locations. So check there for updates. Another topic we'd love for you all to weigh in on, especially if you are that's what I'm looking for, a frequent user of the city's website. We are going through the process of redesigning our website at the City of Beaverton, and we have a survey. We're looking for feedback from folks in the community. It's about a 5-minute survey to tell us about your experiences and preferences. And so we just want to learn more from the community before we begin assessing accessibility of the website and the organization and the layout and more. So there is a link that I sent you in an email. It's too long for me to say here in words, but go to the city's website and search for the website redesign, and hopefully that'll pop up. Yeah, it's just we're due for an update. We need to sort of lift our website up with the latest software and technology. One thing we're really interested in doing is making that user experience for people on mobile devices much better. That's a big thing these days. That's how many people access information on the internet now. And the new website's expected to launch in 2022. And I'll just pause and say there is a Bike Advisory Committee webpage, and there's some resources there. Annie reached out to me a couple months ago. I can't remember what started our conversation, but you were poking around and you had some great suggestions. So I have those kind of waiting in the queue for when we get to a place where we can do a big update of that page. So that might be something I bring back to all of you and share with you to get any of your thoughts on some of what Annie shared was things that were out of date, and some of what Annie shared were things that would be great to see on the website. So maybe we'll bring that back. And then I think the last two final things. Again, we send out more information to all of you about COVID-19 and just urging everyone to be safe and avoid this next surge. Everyone's at the place where we're starting to think about winter gatherings with our friends and family, so take precautions. And there's also a number of vaccine clinics that are available. We know that now kids 5 and older are now eligible, so we're really trying to get as many folks vaccinated as possible. So let's all stay healthy. And then another thing to know that's some new news. We at City of Beaverton, we have opened up the building with some limited on-site services. So if you will go to the city's website, beavertonoregon.gov, you can find sort of current hours and operations. We're still doing quite a bit remote and virtual, but we do have some limited services on site. So there you have it. And I see our guests are here. And I'll just say one other topic, and I will email this to you. Let me find it. I'm going to share my screen. I did want to alert you all to an opportunity for you all as individuals. I think at this point, I think coordinating a bike advisory committee sort of response would take more effort, but Oregon Department of Transportation is updating the Oregon Transportation Plan. And this is a very high level vision document for transportation across all modes across the state. They are updating it. Last was done in 2006, so we're due for some new things have changed in so many ways and how we get around and emerging issues like climate change and social disparities and technology. They're all sort of coming into play in the transportation world. So they have this online open house. As I said, I'll send you a link. They're taking input at this point. And we're about here in the planning process. They're working on the values and vision for this. There's more work to do around policies and strategies and plan implementation. And it looks like they're going to have, whoops, I'm trying to move you all somewhere else. There we go. It looks like they're going to have the final plan next August and adopted in early of January 2023. So a little over a year from now. So I'll send you all this link. It's a virtual website where you click through and it takes you through different sort of boards and you read information, and there's a survey at the end for you to fill out. So do take a look and think about weighing in. I'm sure you all have opinions about transportation. Okay, great. Okay, and I see our guests are here. So I think those are my city staff updates. We can bounce back up to MISTIP, I think was first. So Erin and Jessica, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having us here tonight. I have a PowerPoint presentation to go through talking about Washington County's Major Street Transportation Improvement Program. And I'm very excited because we are testing some new materials. So you are the first audience to see this new version of the presentation. So really happy to share it with you and hear your feedback. My name is Erin Wardell. I'm the Principal Transportation Planner for Washington County. So sort of like Jean's counterpart for the county. And then with me is Jessica Pels, who is one of our senior planners. And she is the co-project manager on this work with me. So both of us are available to answer whatever questions you have. And I am going to jump into this presentation. And make sure I get the right one because I also have the Council Creek presentation. Here we go. Okay, is that sharing? Great. So Major Street Transportation Improvement Program, otherwise known as MISTIP, is an innovative funding program to pay for road improvements. MISTIP is a property tax funded program. Washington County has had the MISTIP program since 1986. So we've funded a number of projects over the years with that. It's been over 150 projects, $900 million, which is not inflation adjusted. So it's actually been more than that. MISTIP funds complete streets projects. We improve our transportation systems for bicyclists, pedestrians, drivers, and bus riders. Really, our projects can be a lot of different things. The way that the program has traditionally been, well, I should say, in the beginning, it was a levy. It was 3 serial levies. And then in the late 90s, it became part of the county's permanent tax rate. And since then, the Board of County Commissioners has allocated MISTIP funds on about a 5-year cycle. So the way these 5-year cycles have worked is that the Washington County Coordinating Committee, which is made up of a mayor or an elected official from each city, as well as one county commissioner, makes a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners, and then the Board of Commissioners makes the final decision on how the funds will be allocated for that 5-year cycle. So this cycle, the 23 to 28, is what we are talking about allocating right now. We don't know yet exactly how much revenue will be available. That's a conversation we need to have with some of the with the chief financial officer of the county, actually. But we're estimating that it'll be about $160 million, and that's what we allocated last time. So what we call the MISTIP 3E funding cycle. The last one was the years 2018 to 2023 was 160 million. We also, in the last cycle, set aside $7 million to replace rural bridges, $7.5 million to be used as match for competitive grant programs. And those match funds are available to the cities as well as to some of our partners like THPRD or the West Side Transportation Alliance, and then $500,000 for intelligent transportation systems. The base eligibility criteria to be a MISTIP project is that it must meet the needs of all travelers and it must be located on a major street identified on our map of major streets. So this slide talks through our general funding allocation timeline. Because of the amount of coordination that we need to do with our city partners, as well as with the community and stakeholders such as yourselves, this is a pretty long process. It will take us a little bit over a year to have done the whole thing. And so we finished our first milestone, which was preparing the work program. We are working on completing our second milestone, which is developing an equity framework that we'll be using for our community engagement, as well as starting to develop the evaluation metrics, which means we'll have a number of projects submitted. We know that we'll have more projects than we can fund. And so we'll be working on developing criteria and metrics that we'll use to evaluate the projects and rank them for our elected officials and the public to see. The board at that point will then be ready to direct staff to start talking to our city partners about the projects that they'd like to submit. So sometime in the spring, be asking our city partners to propose projects for the list. And then once we have the proposed project list and it's been through evaluation, we'll be ready to take it out to the public to ask their opinion about the projects. So there's really two opportunities for the public to directly communicate with us. The first will be early next year when we go out for an online open house and then some focus group and targeted engagement activities, presentations like this. And we'll be asking people to let us know what's important to them in the transportation system. And these conversations will help inform what evaluation metrics we pick. And then in the summer, we will have the ranked project lists ready to go. And so we'll share the project lists with the community and hear what projects are really resonating with people the most. We'll take that information back to the coordinating committee and then the Board of Commissioners. So we are anticipating that in November of next year, they'll be ready to recommend the full package. So what exactly is a major street when we talk about major streets? The simple definition for a major street is a street that has a yellow line down the middle, or a street that should have a yellow line down the middle if it doesn't already. So when you think about your community, think about the streets that have those yellow lines. Those are probably what we would consider a major street. Now, transportation planners like myself would describe those as arterials or collectors usually. Arterials are the bigger streets that link key destinations to other busier streets, but are not freeways. And then collectors are usually a little bit smaller than arterials, and they tend to be collecting traffic from neighborhoods and connecting to those arterials. But really at the core, major streets are the ones that have a lot of different types of users. They have a lot of cars, they have trucks, bicycles, pedestrians, buses. They're serving a lot of the needs of our community, and they usually lead to really popular destinations. So that's what we mean when we talk about major streets. We created this graphic, which I think is fun. Somebody pointed out earlier today that we don't live in Colorado, so we don't have snow-capped peaks like this, but I still like the graphic just to kind of show that road hierarchy to people who maybe aren't as familiar with it. So what you would see in the dark red here, principal arterial, that is like Highway 26 or 217. Those are limited access freeways and highways, generally really high speed and do not accommodate bicycles and pedestrians. Then the next classification down is our arterials. That's the salmon color. So these are primarily for through traffic. They're usually continuous. They're usually pretty long roads, several miles, and they link major destinations and employment centers. So next down from that is the collectors, and you can see those are shorter segments. They link the arterials to the neighborhoods. And then the neighborhood routes and local streets are really serving our most local traffic. So when we talk about multimodal traffic, bicycles and pedestrians, we see those on our lower classification streets. So what's new this time for the MISTIP 23-28 allocation that we didn't do last time? And the first of those is really that we're doing these two different stages of community engagement. We've taken the project list out. Last time we did an online open house with the project list, but we didn't do this first stage of asking the community what's important to them. So that's new. And then the other thing that's new is that we're using an equity framework this time. We're developing that with consultant support. And that is something that we considered as a part of the last cycle's evaluation criteria, but we didn't develop the equity framework up front, and we didn't put in as much forethought into how we do that and how we measure equity and how we apply it to projects. So this has been a really new process for us. And the graphic that you're seeing here is what our equity index mapping tool will look like. That's an opportunity for us to use ArcGIS Online to overlay really important key destinations with areas where equity populations are, and also where we need to be making those connections for our community to services and places people need to go. So some of the layers that are displayed on this map in the screenshot are hospitals, large grocery stores, affordable housing, elementary schools, and we've called out the Title I elementary schools separate from the other elementary schools. We're also seeing high injury intersections and high injury corridors. So there's a lot of different information that we can overlay, and I think this will be really valuable when we get into our project evaluation. So at this point in the presentation, I'd like to hear some feedback if people want to go ahead and start chiming in. And if you want to think about it later and send us emails or reach out, that's totally fine as well. But the first question, as I said, that we want to ask our community is, what's important to you? So before we begin the process of selecting specific projects for the MISTIP program, we want to know what you think is important in our transportation system. So when you travel in Washington County or the cities within Washington County, what is important to you?
John, if you're talking, you're muted.
Okay. Sorry about that. Earlier, you made the comment, if I heard you correctly, that local and residential streets are for bicyclists.
I'm sorry, that's not what I meant. If that's what I said, I apologize. I meant that we see multimodal traffic not on the freeways.
Okay, because I just wanted to say, and I think we all would agree that bicyclists are using practically all those roads, not things like 217, although I have seen people pedaling down 217 and Highway 26, but even the streets with the yellow stripe down the middle are oftentimes popular bike routes. And I think we just need to make sure that we factor in bicyclists and pedestrians using those streets too. That's what I wanted to say.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, for me, for the question of what's important in terms of travel, you know, I know a couple months ago we had a presentation on Metro's regional transportation safety strategy, and it sort of reflected how, you know, traffic fatalities are kind of on the rise both in the metro area and, you know, nationally. And that's something that's very concerning to me. So safety is something that I definitely think a lot about, especially as someone who uses active transportation frequently.
Mm-hmm. I would like to echo that and say that safety, I would like to see that as a priority, and safety over speed, because speed is, you know, a major contributor to crashes and fatalities. And so why do we have to go so fast? You know, what are the driving factors, and why aren't people's lives more important than getting there fast?
Thank you.
So I had a practical question. I bike on Walker Road, which is a major arterial road, and the leaves have fallen and it has not been cleared. It's like almost end of December. The leaves are still there. It's quite slippery. It's wet. So that's the thing which I don't understand. When you talk about safety, why the major arterial road like Walker is not being clear.
Mhm. So an operations concern, the streets needing to be swept.
Yes, please.
I can certainly make a note of that and let our operations department know.
Sure, thanks.
Any other comments on this one? We'll move on to the next one if not. Okay.
Pop in really quick here.
Oh, go
Sorry.
ahead.
I was like,
Go ahead.
why not? One thing I know that I've been learning about through my fellow counselors is like what are like pedestrian and bike safe projects versus not. And I don't remember what it's called, but Mark called it a pork chop. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's like, what is
Yep.
that called?
It's the little island that separates a right turn lane from through traffic. That's a pork chop.
So the way that he explained it to me is like that's not necessarily the safest way to protect pedestrians and bicyclists. And so just thinking about like those kinds of things as like I think this group, and I think they've already said it, but just like the safety and the walkability and the bikeability, like I never thought of those as something that could be dangerous. And now I pay attention and I could see why they could seem more problematic. And so really just thinking about the safety and walkability for folks. And, you know, if pork chops are have more fatalities or issues, then like, you know, I think that people here would say like, we don't want to see them potentially. So thank you.
I think to echo on that, as we're looking at projects and the fall in the MISTIP is looking at some of the newer ideas that come out as how we actually view transportation and transportation design. As we mentioned in our presentation this on Tuesday to the City Council, is incorporating that safe system approach that is gaining traction, and seeing that as a way as we get these projects is making sure that the criteria is looking at how do we make the roads safe for all individuals in the way that we're essentially approaching what our priorities are, really trying to design for human fallibility, and we're going to make mistakes. So being able to see that we're making those arterials safer.
Great. Sorry, I'm trying to take notes too so that we can record all this. So finishing writing that down. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next question, but you'll have more opportunities to share. So we didn't talk about safety specifically. We are framing the programs. We're framing this topic about what's important to you around 4 different topic areas. And the first of those is safety. So I'm glad that's already come up. So what do you think can make our roads safer and can help reduce crashes?
Reduce speeds on our arterials.
Reduce speeds.
Yeah, and to sort of go off of that too, I think a lot of these dangerous roads are sort of designed from the ground up to encourage speed. You know, they're just straight ahead, no obstructions, very wide. And I think a lot of the times just safety is sort of built into the design, even if you have things like automated speed cameras or lower posted speeds. If a road is designed a certain way, I think that encourages a certain level of speed.
Mm-hmm. So thinking about roadway design as a part of developing like target speeds and helping people slow down.
I just dropped in the chat better signage when appropriate. I know people were talking about roundabouts and not knowing the rules. So just making sure that the signage is something that people can read and make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes. Oh, now I think you're muted. There you
I
go.
don't know what's going on with my laptop here. Protected bike lanes, or at least the extra stripe, which is not really a protection, but I don't know, it's called a protection. Doesn't really protect. It just makes it more visible where there's a bike lane. I know there's certain areas where I travel and people just drive straight over into the bike lane because they just don't even acknowledge that it's there. They don't expect to be looking for bikes when they're trying to get on the highway, and that would be helpful.
Jackson Road in Hillsborough is a very good classic example for how a bike lane should be. You are totally out of the main road, and I think you should see it, unless you already seen it. It's right now being constructed. That would be a very ideal way of doing it.
You're talking
Jackson
about
School Road.
the new Jackson School Road project with the
Exactly.
separated cycle track.
Yes, yes.
For people who aren't familiar with it, it's a fully separated cycle track next to the sidewalk. And so it's separated by a landscape strip from traffic.
Correct.
I would certainly echo on that. It's looking at incorporating designs where you have that separation. And also, I think one of the things when we look at traditional approach to transportation design, it's looking at oftentimes being more reactive. It's once an accident has happened, that's when we're looking at it and how do we correct the situation and trying to reframe that and kind of looking at it as being more of that proactive and anticipating where that potential issue could occur and thinking of those aspects as that is being designed.
Okay, any other thoughts on safety? Again, if you think of something later, feel free to bring up safety again. So the next topic area is natural environment. So what natural environment and road features do you think will be the best for the environment?
Can you define what natural features?
You know, I want to leave that open and hear what people have to say. It could be a lot of different things, right? What's important to you? What do you think of?
Amanda here. I think that in terms of landscaping, you need to keep the focus on native plants and native species, which will naturally foster our pollinators and just our critters who already would like to live in this environment.
Okay.
And I'd add with those natural types of plants is that they're maintained so they don't block sight lines and they don't hang over roads that hit cyclists in the head.
And this isn't plant-based, but when I think of road features, I think of lighting. And I do think, having that extra stripe down the side of the road is helpful, although it's not a barrier. There's a long stretch on Shoals Ferry out there by Portland Golf Club that has like one overhead streetlight, and complained several times about that stretch, and no one really seems to ever take ownership for it, but it's awfully dark. I think if we just have more consistent street lighting to illuminate the lanes and make bicyclists a little more visible, that would help.
Any other thoughts on this one before we move on?
I have a thought, but I'm not sure where I'm going with it. I'm not sure what is out there as far as ways to protect animals. Now, I come in contact with a lot of roadkill in the bike lanes, and it's not the bikes doing it. So, you know, when we talk about natural features and trees and areas that are going to be inviting to critters, then, you know, we're also putting critters closer to the road. So whatever technology is out there that can kind of keep the animals in their habitat and off the roads.
Okay, we'll move on to the next one. So healthy economy, another one that could mean lots of different things to different people, but that's okay. How do you think our roads can best meet our economic needs?
I can jump in, and I just would say, especially with this enthusiast bicyclist group, like roads that are bicycle friendly will encourage more of us to get on the roads to get to and from work and to be just use that as a form of transportation. So sometimes in Washington County, we think adding lanes or making it wider and bigger and better is better, but I think parts of it isn't widening, and it's making more space for other ways, like bicycles.
Yeah, I agree with Councilor Hasan. For me personally, when I was still commuting into an office on Washington County facilities, you know, and I sort of looked at the economics of how much does it cost for me to get to work. Driving was always the most expensive. So anything that the county can do to sort of help other options, whether it's biking or whether it's transit, you know, saves me cash in the end, which I'm always happy about. Don't have to pay for parking or gas or anything. Much prefer to do active transportation or transit.
Right, just to build on the prior two comments, I used to commute from Southwest Beaverton to the other side of Portland every day for many years, and it always struck me the striking difference between how bike lanes and how the pathways are so different from community to community. We tend to think, you know, in our box. It's not just Beaverton that we should be concerned about. We need to make sure that we're connecting Beaverton to Tigard and to Multnomah Village and to Hillsborough. And this kind of ties to your next presentation that I'm looking forward to. You know, here we have the Red Electric Trail on the east side of Portland, or Beaverton, pardon me. And we have now the Council Creek Trail that's going to be developing out on the west side. What is Beaverton doing to connect and you know, make decisions that will support the development of a bikeway that will go all the way to Portland? You know, we don't often just think of, you know, creating a throughway. We're just thinking about our little area that we're responsible for. I would just encourage more thinking about the whole system, making it bike and pedestrian friendly, so people can, you know, commute safely, say from Beaverton to downtown Portland.
Any other thoughts on this one? Okay, so then equity and fairness. How can the MISTIP process or our projects be more equitable or fair?
I think this maybe in the outreach to getting public comment, public involvement, really looking at strategies to reach the entire population of Washington County. And so whatever means you see to doing that, I think would be a first step.
Yeah, I think also just making biking overall more accessible in certain neighborhoods or communities, kind of connecting them to pre-existing systems is also really important. And just getting that first step out of the neighborhoods is important.
Any other thoughts? This is a big topic.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Washington County has data on this, but I know there are often sort of big differences in demographics for different modes of transportation. And so I think equitability in terms of transportation projects would be taking those into account and making sure that that weights sort of in the decision-making process somehow.
I was gonna say, it feels like when you were talking, showing us the map, like you're kind of going for the equity lens, like, right, like you're looking at areas and pockets and schools. I'd be curious, like, where do we have more accidents, less, right? Like, where do we have most of those issues, and try to make the data help inform where we go, less than voices, different groups of people who can over advocate or under advocate. There was something that Michael had said earlier about his commute and stuff. This is back to the economic piece, but obviously we're still in pandemic mode, but as people get back on the roads, like understanding where people are going and are there ways to offer alternative modes of transportation. I don't know if that falls in MSTIP, but more just generally speaking, like what work we can be doing to help avoid congestion.
And an interesting aspect of that is I heard recently that we're getting back to pre-pandemic levels of traffic, yet people are still not back in their office. So it's more reflecting that people are self-isolating, if you will, in their cars, and we're not having commuting, ride sharing and things of that nature happening. So that would be another aspect. Is it's hard to project out what's going to happen with the pandemic, but what is driving behavior going to be as far as having multiple people in cars or versus one to a car, and can we do things with the roads that'll encourage people to use that active or alternative transportation like bicycles in place of being just one to a car.
In terms of equity as well, I think the county should consider sort of pollution in this. I know oftentimes arterials will go through sort of lower income neighborhoods. Busier streets like highways will go past, apartment complexes instead of single family homes. I know that's not entirely within sort of the scope of MISTIP, but it is something I think that this program could have some influence on and take into consideration when planning projects.
I would just echo what he said, because we don't know, like, I don't know what our low income, like the low income pockets are, right? And like what access or not lack of access they have, and then how we can also think about that from a climate lens too. So thanks for that comment, Michael. It's a really good one.
Okay, we'll move on from this. That's my contact information. So if people have any other thoughts for the good of the order or something else that you want to go back to real quick, we can record that. Any thoughts in general about this? Well, thanks for being our test audience for some new material and a new way to frame this.
I just wanted to give you some feedback. I really appreciate you asking questions and soliciting feedback from us and not just giving us the PowerPoint presentation. So thank you.
It was a lot more fun for me. Councilor Hasan has seen me give the MISTIP presentation. I don't even know how many times. And then Jean's seen it 3 times as many as that. And poor Jessica's here for all of them. And so I really was happy to hear from other people.
I think it was great. And I loved how you explained arterials and collectors. So
that slide was for you, actually. I said I'm going to the Beaverton Bike Committee and Councilor Hasan needs to see something different for arterials.
Just so I understand it, because I just don't know, like, is that a common, right? I did not know what an arterial was until 2021.
Right. It sounds like a body thing. Like, I'm not a doctor. I don't know about arterials. So
thank you. It was great.
Well, thank you. That was, and actually that I think is so important. And we as technical staff think about things a certain way and talk about things a certain way, and it's really not accessible to the public. And so I really appreciated that feedback from you. And I'm glad that you like the newer version. So we'll keep working on our messaging. Certainly, if there's something else that you saw today that any of you that flagged for you as something that may not be very accessible to the community, let me know. I did mention, I think that we have a consulting firm on board helping us to do our community engagement. They are helping us specifically to work with some of our community-based organizations. We'll be doing some translated materials and making sure that our materials are culturally specific before we go out and engage with certain communities as well. So we're really looking forward to doing a more robust engagement than we've done before. So with that, Jean, should we switch over to Council Creek?
I think so.
Okay,
Let's
great.
dive
I
into
just have a couple of slides for Council Creek Trail. Let me pull that one up. So we already had a quick heads up on the Council Creek Trail that came up in the previous discussion. So see if this is sharing now. Okay, so the Council Creek Regional Trail. So this is a really exciting opportunity for the county. We were awarded $12.2 million from USDOT through the RAISE grant program, which is the Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity program. We had actually asked for 21 and we were awarded 12.2. So it wasn't the full amount that we asked for, but they really try to spread the peanut butter with these federal programs and they try to award as many projects as possible. We were delighted. It is $12.2 million more than we had the day before we were awarded. So this is really wonderful. This trail connects the Hatfield Max Station in downtown Hillsborough to Pacific University in Forest Grove. It is about 6 miles, 6.5 miles total, I think. This project is really the result of years of coordination between the cities of Hillsborough and Cornelius and Forest Grove and Washington County. It does travel through a high equity needs area, low income and very diverse population areas, connects a number of key destinations for different communities. We really couldn't be more excited about it. So as I said, we had requested more than that. We received about 9 million less than we requested. And so we had to redo our scope really quickly in order to assure USDOT that yes, 12.2 is still great and we can make a trail happen with that. So we, as a part of that reduction, looked at our scope and pulled out components from the project costs that we thought we could identify other funding sources to fill in specifically so that we would still be able to complete the full extent of the trail. It was really important to us that we go from Hillsborough to Forest Grove. We didn't want to cut any of the extent of this trail. So we removed the collector and arterial crossings because we knew that we could find other funding for the crossing improvements. Since those are more typical types of projects that the county and the cities deliver, we knew that we could do that ourselves. We removed some of the trail amenities, things like wayfinding, benches, and trash receptacles. Those tend to be much lower dollar, and we figured that's something that we can figure out before the trail project is complete. And then trailheads, this is again another amenity that we thought we could fund or find funding for later. So really our priority is filling the gap in the collector and arterial crossings because those are pretty essential. So our next step here is to identify some additional funding sources that we can use to stitch together that gap. And so this slide just lists a few of those potential opportunities. We're thinking metros, parks, and natural areas bond measure, and I'm sure Beaverton's thinking about some opportunities with that as well. We're also thinking about the regional flexible funds allocation that is traditionally used for a number of different trails projects, and this project fits in with those goals really well. The cities and the county have all already committed their transportation development tax revenues as a match for this, and so that's another funding source that we could dip into. And then back to MISTIP. The MISTIP program could fund the arterial and collector crossings as well because they're eligible expenditures. And so that's something we'll be talking to the cities about and seeing if that's something that they would be interested in doing. So on the next steps for our RAISE grant, we need to obligate the funds by 2024. We currently have RFFA funds, that's Metro Regional Flexible Funds, to do design work. And so we're doing a 30% design through that process. And we're looking to wrap that up in about 18 months and then be ready to obligate, be identifying that funding that we're looking for. We need to also resolve the railroad right-of-way and determine alternatives for how we want to hold that right-of-way in the long term. The right-of-way is owned by ODOT Rail, and so there is an abandonment process with the railroads underway right now, so we need to resolve that. We also will be working to identify which agency will be delivering the project. It could be the county, but we may decide that it makes sense for ODOT to deliver it, or one of the cities, or all the cities in different pieces. And so that's going to be a big piece for us to negotiate as we go forward. As I said, we need to obligate the funds by 2024. That means we need to be ready to receive those federal funds and start working on it. So once we do that, we will complete final design and start constructing the trail. And our commitment to the federal government is that it is done by 2029. And we'd love to have it done as soon as possible and much sooner than that. But that is our absolute end date for the project. So I think that's all the slides I had on this. That was from the RFFA grant. I don't need to go into that anymore with this group. So I'm gonna go back to the first one with the map because that's my favorite part. There it is. We're really excited about this. So any questions about that? I guess I'll say the long-term vision is, so this is a 6.5 mile segment that connects from Hillsborough to Forest Grove. There's another segment of the Council Creek Trail that goes from Forest Grove north to Banks. And then from Banks, you can get on the Banks Vernonia Trail. And then someday you can connect to the Salmonberry Trail and go all the way over to Tillamook. So someday you can get from Beaverton to the cheese factory on a bike.
I'm on the Salmonberry Trail Foundation board, and we're just so interested and so happy with what's happened here with Council Creek Trail, and I really applaud getting the funds, and we've already gone through this rail banking process, and if there's anything that we can help you with as you navigate, rail law is a whole new, different, weird area of law, and anyway, we might help each other, and we'd be glad to work with you if you want to work together.
Absolutely, that would be really valuable. Thank you. You're right, it's a whole new and interesting area of law with the rail banking and who owns the right of way, and we need to dig into the deeds and figure out, anyway, there's a whole lot of logistics with that. We're actually meeting with the county council tomorrow morning to start talking about legal issues.
If I could just add one more thing, it just, I love your map, and it just really highlights, we as a Beaverton Bicycle Advisory Committee really need to make a priority helping connect Hillsborough with Beaverton and beyond. And it's every now and then it just kind of pops up, but we never have really sunk our teeth into it. And done something concrete. But somehow we need to support the Council Creek Trail and the eventual building of a trail all the way from Portland to the coast. And so, you know, going forward, I just asked the Beaverton Bicycle Advisory Committee to think of ways we can support this.
That's great. Any other feedback, comments, thoughts?
I was just going to ask Erin on that note of what John was saying. Do you have any needs for this group to weigh in or offer support that could be helpful?
Possibly. I hadn't thought about it in advance, but thank you for that. I think that's something we could consider, especially as we think about stitching together these funding sources, and also thinking about some of those connections you're talking about between Beaverton, Hillsborough, and unincorporated Washington County. I do think there's a lot of opportunity out there. We have a number of trails identified in our plans that we can be thinking strategically about identifying funding for.
To add to that, and what John was saying about extending trails and getting all the way to the coast is, let's say to all the major natural areas, because without a car, how do you get to Crater Lake? Without a car, how do you get to anywhere, right? To anywhere that's outside of Portland, without traveling, roads that have very high speeds.
And quick question, Gene, with the trail the THPRD is working on that's running parallel to the MAX tracks, closer to the Nike campus, we had the presentation a couple of months ago. I'm curious if that's moving away at some point, that would be something that'd be added on to work it further towards Hillsborough, whether there's a connection with that.
Yeah, I'm just hearing you all sort of ask about how we connect to places beyond Beaverton. I think it's worth looking at what we have both in the active transportation plan and what's identified there and what's in our transportation system plan as projects. And then also on the trails side of things, there's also the trails functional plan that is THPRD's planning document for the trail system. So there's that integration is what we need. I mean, I described the work that we do around building bicycle facilities, that it's both building those facilities on those roadways, but it's also about building out a network. And that's really what we're setting out to accomplish. So your comments are all very much in line with that. As you can see, these kinds of projects cost a lot of money. And those resources are competitive. They're frequently, they're hard to get. I don't know how many jurisdictions submitted applications for this latest round of RAISE grants, but there are way more applications that go in to DOT than actually get awarded. So it's incredible that we got this project. There were 2 projects awarded in the state in this round, this project, and then there's a project down in Eugene and Springfield on Franklin Boulevard, in the Glenwood area, I think, of Franklin Boulevard, for those of you that may know Eugene. Those are the 2. So really there's it's very competitive and very few projects for this, but this is a program that funds very significant projects. So it's a great program. It's funded other projects here in the state. So I think we can expect to see with the Biden-Harris administration and the passage of the new infrastructure bill, a lot of emphasis around transportation modes that are doing work to help us reduce our need to burn fossil fuels, and reduce our impact on the climate. There's still a lot of information swirling. As staff, Erin and Jessica and I are in meetings. We've been in meetings recently, and others that we work with. Just kind of, there's a lot of waiting to hear what's going to come from that, from the passage of the infrastructure bill. There's still a lot of unknowns because there's still rules to be written. There's some existing programs that will likely get funding out the door quicker, and some newer programs that we're all going to be waiting a little bit on. But I think this program that funded this trail project, we expect it to continue. It's a pretty popular program. There, I said a lot of things, but back to the network comment, there's money. It's very competitive, and staff are thinking about it. And we will be talking with City Council as well about priorities. And there's also a bit of, with all of those potential funding resources, whether it be federal funds or state funds or MISTIP or others, there's some need, you need to be strategic around those as well. So what Erin described for you tonight around, we got this much money and now we need to figure out other sources of money, that's very typical in transportation projects. So that's a part of the work that I enjoy. It's hard, there's sort of a piecing things together and working with our partners around the region to make those projects happen. But that's there. I just sort of shed a little light on building the network and trying to find the funding to do it. There you go. So
Great.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments for Erin and Jessica? Well, again, thank you so much for your time and coming out this evening virtually to join us and share this information. And definitely like to have you back as things move along for further comments or any ways that we can provide letters of support or things of that nature. Please reach out to Jean and we'd be happy to revisit this.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, great. I'll just add one thing. Sorry, I'm going to bounce back to MISTIP.
Okay.
Is that I think at some point we'll want to bring probably city priorities back to you. So, Beaverton City Council, Beaverton will be submitting projects that we'd like to see included in this next round of funding. Council will really be the ones to sort of make that sort of final decision around which ones are our key priorities. But I can see this group, I can see you all as a stop along the way for gathering input. And Councilor Hasan is part of a working group of the City Council that is specifically focused on the MISTIP and helping to craft the city's strategy. So I have a feeling we will be back to talk about potential projects with all of you. So when those opportunities come up, if you remember that timeline that Erin showed, I think we'll want to check in with all of you.
Thank you. All right. So I think with our bouncing around, we've covered many of the things. I think, check me if I'm wrong, but I think we just have member comments and any announcements that need to be made. So anybody have anything they want to share with the committee? Amy, what's going on with the Youth Advisory Council with the mayor? Is there anything on that front that you think that you'd like to share with us or we'd be interested in learning about?
Yeah, I mean, I can give a quick update. We're mainly, so we've divided ourselves into subcommittees. I'm leading the community involvement subcommittee, and right now we're in the process of planning a youth summit event, which we hope to have in person in April. So we're trying to collaborate with BSD on that and have it be kind of an event where high schoolers get bused to the event location, and then we have a bunch of workshops. So who knows, maybe we could have one on biking or alternative transportation methods. I'll definitely continue updating you guys.
Okay, Terrific. Let us know any way that we can help support that. Anyone else have anything need to share or want to pass along?
I'll just jump in.
Experience? Oh, go ahead.
Because of our new stuff, I don't know if we will reallocate council liaisons. I believe it used to be 2 years. It might not. So it is possible that I won't be your liaison next year. This might be my last meeting with you. So that's very TBD. I don't know where that will land, but if it does go that way, it's just been such a pleasure to sit with you all and get to know you all. I hope that you know that you can always email me. I'll pop my email in the chat again. And I really do mean what I say. Like, I feel good knowing y'all are here because I'm learning a lot through Jean on the transportation subcommittee work. And every time I learn, I'm like, oh, the bicycle advisory committee will like catch some of these things so that, we're taking care of and that we are prioritizing safety and the community. So if it's potentially my last meeting, it's just been a pleasure working with y'all. If it's not, I'll see you again next month.
And we've loved having you as our council liaison and all the information you've been bringing us. And we hope you continue to be our point person, the city council. It's funny, as I was looking at all the council members on Tuesday, it's like, all right, everybody except the 2 newest members of the council have been a liaison to the Bicycle Advisory Committee over the years. So
yeah.
The one point of business is Amanda is taking care of notes for us tonight because Caitlin was not able to be here, but Caitlin will be leaving the committee for January. So we do need somebody that would like to volunteer for January to take on that task. It doesn't mean that you're the last one holding the hot potato when we go to vote for new member leadership in February, but we would like to have somebody volunteer. So I'm not going to adjourn until we have somebody raise a hand. Anybody?
While they're thinking,
Yes.
I will just say, this is good. I'm realizing it's December. We're at the end of the year and next year's a new year. So we will actually have a few new members joining us next year. Just so you all know, in terms of the recruitment process, if you remember, we do recruitment for boards and commissions in the fall. And it does take a long time to get to the end, but actually next week on Tuesday at City Council, they will be reviewing the mayor's recommendations for appointments and voting on that. So for those of you who are due to your terms are expiring and you reapplied, you will be hearing from us soon. But just so you know that we're nearing the end of that process and we'll have a couple of new people to welcome to the BAC in January. So that agenda will do, we'll spend quite a bit of time on sort of those first meeting of the year kind of tasks, getting to know folks and welcoming our new members. And talking about the different roles in terms of chair and vice chair and recorder. So know that that's what we'll be doing in January. And as I said, I think February we'll have an hour with the Climate Action Task Force. So if you do want to be part of that agenda setting, we haven't really thought much yet about what our key topics are. I think we're waiting to meet with them and share thoughts and ideas. So reach out to me if that's something you're interested in. Okay, so I've given you a lot more time to think about someone who might be willing to take the notes. Okay.
Anybody?
Well, we have a few people who aren't here, so
All
maybe
right.
we'll do a call on the email. To see
Okay.
if they might
Let's
be
see if we can
willing.
get
We'll
somebody
figure it
to
out. We'll figure it out.
volunteer on that end. All right. Well, thank you again, everybody. I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday season. Be safe. Enjoy your time with family and things of that nature. And we'll see everybody back in January. And if you have a moment to send a note to counselors on things that you think are a priority. Oh, Michael Dunleavy, you have your hand raised.
Yes, I just wanted to mention that the owner of Riders and Sliders on Beaverton Hillsdale, Eric Nyberg, passed away. So we might be losing that as a bike shop, unfortunately. I know him because he was the referee in chief for ice hockey in the area, but then I'd also have him fix my bike and tune my skis. So it's a great loss for the recreation community. Hopefully the store stays in business. Potentially one of his sons might take it over, but just wanted to share that knowledge with everyone.
Thank you for letting us know about that. All right, well, everyone, I will see you soon. And thanks again for all of your help, and see you next year. Take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Happy holidays.